R. L. Stein, Goosebumps. It's gonna be a LONG night, a night in Terror Tower. All locked up and no place to go. Sue and her brother Eddie are visiting London when they run into a little problem. They can't find their tour group. Still, there's no reason to panic because there's no way their tour guide will just leave them all alone in a gloomy old prison tower. There's no way they get locked inside after dark with those eerie sounds and a strange dark figure who wants them dead. Reader beware, you are in a scare, Goosebumps. 1. I'm scared, Eddie said. I shivered and zipped my coat up to my chin. Eddie, this was your idea, I told my brother. I didn't beg and plead to see the terror tower. You did. He raised his brown eyes to the tower. A strong gust of wind fluttered his dark brown hair. I have a strange feeling about it too. A bad feeling. I made a disgusted face. Eddie, you are such a wimp. You have a bad feeling about going to the movies. Only scary movies, he mumbled. You are 10 years old, I said sharply. It's time to stop being scared of your own shadow. It's just an old castle with a tower, I said, gesturing toward it. Hundreds of tourists come here every day. But they used to torture people here, Ellie said, suddenly looking very pale. They used to lock people in the tower and let them starve to death. Hundreds of years ago, I told him. They don't torture people here anymore, Eddie. Now they just sell postcards. We both gazed up at the gloomy old castle built of grey stones, darkened over time. Its two narrow towers rose up like stiff arms at its sides. Storm clouds hovered low over the dark towers. The bent old trees in the courtyard shivered in the wind. It didn't feel like spring. The air was heavy and cold. I felt a raindrop on my forehead, then another on my cheek. A perfect London day, I thought. A perfect day to visit the famous Terror Tower. This was our first day in England, and Eddie and I had been sightseeing all over London. Our parents had to be at a conference and at the hotel, so they signed us up in with a tour group, and off we went. We toured the British Museum, walked through Harrods department store, visited Westminster Abbey and Trafalgar Square. For lunch we had pandas and mashed sausages and mashed potatoes at a real English pub. Then the tour group took a great bus ride sitting on top of the bright red double-decker bus. London was just as I imagined it, big and crowded. Narrow streets lined with little shops and jammed with those old-fashioned looking black taxis. The sidewalks were filled with people from all over the world. Of course, my scary cat brother was totally nervous about traveling around a strange city on our own, but I'm 12 and a lot less wimpy than he is. I managed to keep him pretty calm. I was totally surprised when Eddie begged to visit the third tower. Mr. Starks, our bald, red-faced tour guide, gathered the group together on the sidewalk. They were about 12 of us, mostly old people. Ellie and I were the only kids. Mr. Starks gave us a choice, another museum or the tower. A tower, Eddie pleaded. I've got to see the third tower. We took a long bus ride to the outskirts of the city. The shops gave way to rows of tiny red brick houses. Then we passed even older houses hiding behind stoop trees and low, ivy-covered walls. When the bus pulled to a stop, we climbed out and followed a narrow street made of bricks, worn smooth over the centuries. The street ended at a high wall. Behind the wall, the third tower rose up darkly. Hurry, Sue! Eddie stood my sleep. We'll lose the group. They wait for us, I told my brother. Stop worrying, Eddie. We won't get lost. We jogged over the old bricks and caught up with the others. Wrapping his long black overcoat around him, Mr. Starks led the way through the entrance. He stopped and pointed at a pile of grey stones in the large grass-covered courtyard. That wall was the original castle wall, he explained. It was built by the Romans in about the year 400. London was a Roman city then. Only a small section of the wall was still stood. The rest had crumbled or fallen. I couldn't believe I was staring at a wall that was over 1500 years old. We followed Mr. Stark's along the path that led to the castle and its towers. This was built by the Romans to be a walled fort. The tour guide told us after the Romans left, it became a prison. They started many years of cruelty and torture within these walls. I pulled out my little camera from my coat pocket and took a picture of the Roman wall. Then I turned and snapped a few pictures of the castle. The sky had darkened even more. I hoped the pictures would come out. This was London's first step to prison, Mr. Stark explained as he led the way. If you were too poor to pay your bills, you were sent to prison, which meant that you could never pay your bills, so you stayed in prison forever. We passed a small guardhouse. It was about the size of a phone booth, made of white stones with a slanted roof. I thought it was empty, but to my surprise, a grey uniformed guard stepped out of it, a rifle perched sleepily on his shoulder. I turned back and gazed on the dark wall that surrounded the castle grounds. "Look, Eddie," I whispered. "You can see any of these cities outside the wall. It's as if we really stepped back in time." He shivered. I don't know if it was because of my words or because of the sharp wind that blew through the old courtyard. The castle cast a deep shadow over the path. Mr. Stark's led us to have a narrow thrust and the side. Then he stopped and turned back to the group. I was startled by the tense, sorrowful expression on his face. "I'm so sorry to give you this bad news," he said, his eyes moving slowly from one of us to the next. "Huh? Bad news?" Eddie whispered, moving closer to me. "We will all be imprisoned in the North Tower," Mr. Starks announced sternly. "There you will be tortured until you tell us the real reason why you choose to come here."